So we live in a very interesting time where right now illegal immigrants are entering into the United States and taking benefits away from the American people, from taxpayers, from citizens, from veterans, and from people that are homeless. This is turning into a massive crisis, but now experts are telling us you are about to pay the price. So I want to break down what you are actually losing, how cities are changing the way that they run their budget, and how you are going to be impacted moving forward. Again, this is very scary, but I just want to show you one city, what they are currently going through, and what you could be expecting very soon. So, all I ask is one thing. It takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates, and now let's begin. So cities all across the United States are feeling the impacts of all these illegal immigrants entering into the United States. Now, illegal immigrants, again, are taking away some of our benefits, but they are not doing this directly. It's not just because they're coming in and we're giving all of them the money. No, that's not the reason why. The reason why we're losing benefits is because cities, instead of pushing back like Texas has been doing, some cities like Denver, like Chicago, and even New York. These are cities that are trying to give back to these veterans or give back to these illegal immigrants, but by taking benefits away from our veterans. For instance, shelter. This is just absolutely insane where people are coming in illegally. We are giving them a place to live, and we're telling veterans that fought for this country, get out of the shelter. I want to show you this right here. Denver cuts services in response to the migrant crisis that's costing the city $180 million. It's going to cost the city of Denver $180 million to provide shelter, food for these illegal immigrants. Guess what? That's coming from you. Okay? I want to show you this. This is what Denver's doing. Denver's going to cut back on their hours at the DMV and even rec centers in order to continue to pay for this migrant crisis. Because guess what? Denver doesn't have the money. They don't have the money, but you know what they're going to do? They're just going to cut benefits. They're going to take away a rec center for the youth, and they're going to let migrants stay there. They're going to take away hours or cut hours. Instead of the rec centers closing at 8 p.m., they're going to start closing the rec centers about 4 or 5 p.m. You know why? So that they can get enough time so they can put cots up inside the gyms, inside the rec centers, so that people can sleep there overnight. Yeah, that's what we're going to face. I want to read you some other things. And these are not just from the city of Denver. These are from places all across the country. They say migrants are getting free shelter. They're getting basic health care because they cannot afford the services, but yet they go into these hospitals and clinics, say they need something or they have some type of virus or infection or whatever it may be. And when it comes to paying, well, can't do it. But these cities are going to pay it. They're going to foot the bill. And you know who's going to pay for that? Well, it's going to be the taxpayers. Also, they're getting free food. And this is something that many people say is just outright ridiculous. How can people that are coming into the United States illegally get free food when they are taking away from citizens and veterans and people that have been paying taxes, that have fought for the country, that could use this food? We are now seeing food pantries having to ration food in order to give everybody the same amount. It's interesting. But all this is going to be paid for by cuts. Here are some of the cuts that cities are considering doing or are doing at this time. We already talked about rec centers changing their hours, because a rec center changing their hours to make sure they're not open as long, they can then start serving migrants or homeless, because now they can open up those gyms, they can open up the rec centers and start putting cots in. Well, here's the other problem. You got to pay for those cots. You got to pay for boxes so that they can store their stuff. All right? How are you going to do that? Well, you can't buy the new basketballs for the rec center. You can't buy new markers and can't pay for additional volunteers, right? Well, you don't pay for a volunteer, but people don't come in and volunteer all the time. So you do have to have some employees. Guess what? You can't pay for as many. It's a problem. DMVs are changing how they operate. And I want to read you this, okay? Look at this. It says right here, why it matters. It says the mayor's decision is a turning point for the city's management of the migrant crisis, which has cost more than $42 million to date. This is in Denver. And it shows his administration is prioritizing helping new arrivals. Look at this. It says spring and summer programming at rec centers are expected to be reduced, with spring programming reduced by at least 25%. Now, here's what I think is interesting. I want to read you this one right here. It says vehicle registration renewals will be moved online only and at kiosks, with DMV's locations closing on a rotating basis starting on March 4th and reducing hours at city recreational centers starting on February 20th. What I think is interesting about this is vehicle registration renewals. It's going to be moved to online only and at kiosks. Is there a way you can somewhat, game the system? You can, go and renew it, and maybe you're not even the one that's renewing it, right? Maybe you just found a title, right? And you're going to go and do all this. Is there a way people can start to scam you? Is there a way you can game the system, right? Well, this is a new possibility because there's not going to be people there. It's going to be online only in kiosks. Interesting. Here's another one. Schools across the country are having to give back money for school buses. They can't go and buy their new buses anymore because they have to give that money back because now the states need it. They also can't afford as many books in the classrooms because one of the things that they're doing right now, and I've actually seen this firsthand, is they're trying to give people that come into the United States a book that is in their language. Okay, so if you're coming from Brazil, well, guess what? You're not going to get an English book. You're coming from China, not going to get an English book, right? You're coming from another country, even Mexico. Your book's not going to be in English. They're going to give you a different book. Again, it costs money. They also are struggling to hire more teachers because, again, if they have to teach in a different language, well, how do they do that? A teacher has to know that language. They have to go and pay for an interpreter. Well, guess what? An interpreter costs money. You can't just pull out Google Translate and try to teach somebody with Google Translate. It doesn't work. Another one. Libraries, both in schools and public libraries, well, we're starting to see they can't buy new books. They just can't buy new books anymore. And why? Well, they just don't have the funding. The funding has been taken. Parks, they're reducing their operating hours. We've been seeing this for months, right? I told you this back when we were talking about Eagle Pass, Texas, the very first time. And I told you, be prepared because the federal government is planning on taking our parks and using that space to then go and allow legal immigrants and asylum seekers to go and pop a tent in there and stay for as long as they want. Because that's a federal park. We can do whatever we want. Well, Texas is fighting back and saying, no, you are not taking our parks. So be ready for that. Another one, police stations. Police stations are actually cutting back on hiring new officers. Many officers are quitting, but they're cutting back on hiring new officers because they can't afford it. They're also not giving as big of raises, if they're giving a raise at all. Here's another one that I thought was very interesting. That reports are that some law enforcement officers are losing some of their weapons. Because here's the thing. Instead of hiring people to go and fix the weapons and clean them and do all that good stuff to them, what they're doing is they're taking some of the weapons back. And when an officer needs a different weapon, they go and give them that weapon. But then they take the other one back. They always have their sidearm, but some of the other ones, some of the bigger ones, right? Those are things that are now being rationed in some police stations. Interesting, especially when we're seeing crime is increasing. This absolutely makes no sense, but that is what we are now hearing, is that right now, the American people could suffer simply because we have to provide and ration our benefits for everybody else. How crazy is that? But that is currently what's going on. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Do you think this is right? Or do you think we should do something about this? Well, let me know down in the comment section below. But as always, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.